Mirasee.
Human design gives you validation and confirmation of, oh, that's why this never felt good when it comes to a lot of things, especially inside of business, sales conversations, showing up on social media, your offerings, so on and so forth. And it really helps you customize all of the solicited and unsolicited feedback you get constantly.
What if your coaching business didn't just make money, but also felt perfectly aligned with who you are? Imagine waking up every day feeling energized, clear, and profitable mentally, emotionally, financially. I'm Melinda Cohan, and you're listening to Just Between Coaches. I run a business called The Coaches Console. We're proud to have helped tens of thousands of coaches create profitable and thriving businesses. This is a podcast where we answer burning questions that newer coaches would love to ask a more experienced coach. Today, we're exploring a powerful tool called human design and how it can help you honor who you are while building a thriving business. Whether you're new to this concept or have no idea what it is, stick around because this can help you design your path to success and show up in a way that feels authentically you and helps your clients. Mel McSherry is joining me today. They are a business and life guide who uses human design alongside traditional strategies to help entrepreneurs create lives they love on their terms. Oh, and they've done it all while being a full-time caregiver to their autistic son. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you on the show and looking forward to diving into this topic. Before we do that, would you mind sharing a little bit of your background with our listeners?
So I've been an entrepreneur since 2010 and did not start where I ended up, which is typical in an entrepreneurial journey, a lot of plot twists. So I started in the fitness industry. I was a certified personal trainer and I tried the corporate gym life for about a year, hated it, and realized I wanted to train who I wanted to train when I wanted to train them, and be more accessible cost wise. So I broke off and started my own personal training company, like I said, in 2010. And I did a lot of in-home trainings, outdoor boot camps. And then when my son was born in 2011, I was married at the time. His father worked for Major League Baseball in the media relations department with the players, which meant he was gone for 2 months straight spring training, worked every single home game, took every other away trip. I was new to the Chicago area at the time, and I pretty much became a married single mom. It was me trying to figure out how to be a mom on top of really understanding what I wanted inside of this new role. And that got sprinkled in with some undiagnosed postpartum depression. So I ended up taking a step to the side because I really don't believe in step backs. I believe in getting a different vision or view. And I ended up putting a pin in my business and doing some online medical billing work, which is fun, as well as being a virtual administrator for a couple of companies. And I like to talk about this part of my story because sometimes we forget that the journey is very in between and all the things. We sometimes feel guilty when we need to make a decision that's not necessarily aimed at the end goal, but does fill a bucket. I talk about profitability in a threefold, which you mentioned beautifully in the intro. When I say profitable, I mean mentally, emotionally, and financially. There are many times in our lives and our businesses where some of those buckets have been neglected and we need to make choices to fill one or two so the other ones can be filled and looked at. So for me, being able to fill that financial bucket by doing online medical billing and virtual administration really helped me catch up mentally and emotionally with being a new mom, having all of these other stresses, and really looking at, okay, now what do I want? What do I want my business to look like? What do I want my time to look like? And that ended up coming to the form of partnering with a network marketing company called Beachbody. At the time, I just wanted to be a health and fitness coach. I had no desire whatsoever to build a team. I really didn't think I had the wherewithal to tell people how to build their business, but I just wanted to do my own thing. And so, purely focusing on being a coach, I was pretty successful and consistent in my success rather quickly. And that got the attention of my leader, who was like, look, you're this married single mom. You are consistent in your sales. Like, what are you doing? I really didn't think it was anything special. But she's like, just do a day in the life of Mel training. Let people follow you around and see what you do. In doing that, I realized that I was doing something differently that a lot of people don't do. I was focusing on my time and energy management. I use both of those hand in hand. So, how I would frame my day is and I still do this to this day, by the way. When I wake up in the morning, okay, how am I feeling? How did I sleep? Am I personable today? What's going on? Then I look at the time that I have and then my to do list. I pick things off my to do list that match the energy and time that I have. And if it's too big, I would break it down. I just walked them through this. Again, not thinking that this was anything major, but apparently it's not how all people look at their day. People in her team started checking in on their time and energy management. Their productivity became more consistent. They felt more connected and successful inside their businesses. So people automatically just wanted to start working with me. All of a sudden, I have a team. Fast forward a year later, we're in the top 1% of the company. I'm being asked to do team calls and trainings all throughout Beachbody. Fast forward to 2015, I'm in the middle of my divorce. I have one foot in fitness coaching that's going absolutely nowhere because my other foot is in business coaching. And I realized, if there's any time to have another major plot twist, it's now. And beautifully through Beachbody, I had the honor of having a year-long internship with John C. Maxwell, who is like the coach of coaches. And so through him, I got my international coaching certification through him and his team. I left Beachbody 2016, started my business, quote unquote, coaching business in 2017 with the primary focus of helping people in network marketing really own their businesses. It's so easy in network marketing to do the copy and paste lemming style, which is indicative of entrepreneurship in general. But then as I started getting more comfortable outside of my comfort zone, I realized that it was entrepreneurs in general who don't really take the time to check in on their time and energy. Then when human design found me in 2020, it was just like, oh, because I had struggled so much with my self-trust for almost my entire life. I knew things, but I didn't know how I knew them, or I couldn't explain why this was my how. So instead, like we're all taught to do, I went externally. I paid major money to major players in the coaching field, did well on paper, right? I spoke over 200 times in 3 years. I was making really great money. I was having this really great lifestyle. But I was finding that I did not feel like myself in my business. I would show up to sessions, first of all, having to talk myself up to showing up because I really did think that session was the session where my client goes, "Oh, who are you? You're such a fraud." Everything that I did to receive that client was taught to me, and it 99.9% of the time didn't feel yummy. It felt forced and gross, but I didn't know how to explain that, not only to myself, but to advocate for myself to my mentor. And then I had my first human design reading in 2020, which happened to have been 2 weeks before lockdown here in Chicago, unbeknownst to me. I sobbed. Like it was the first time I just took a deep breath and went, there it is. There's the vernacular. I'm not crazy. I'm not lazy. I'm not stupid. Like, why didn't I know this sooner? And so I started implementing it into my personal life and my professional life in 2020. And in 2022, I was like, you know what? I need to come out of the spiritual closet. More people need to know this, especially entrepreneurs. And I really want to show how they can strengthen this self-trust and utilize this information so their confidence is unshakable, not only in their why, but the why behind their how. Ever since then, it's been such a beautiful experience. What can we start unraveling? And having complete and pure ownership, self-trust, and confidence in the process is just chef's kiss.
Love it, love it, love it. There is so much in all that you have just shared. We're going to get to the profitability for sure. I want to dive into that because I loved that aspect. I love that, just that normal way of how you naturally thought to show up. It makes so much sense. Focus on time and energy. One of the things that I tell our students is your normal is usually somebody else's aha.
I love that.
And it helps them to really recognize, well, doesn't everybody do this? I just thought everybody did this.
Right.
And it's like, there's that moment of normal for you. It is always going to be somebody else's aha. And I love that people picked up on it and you're like, oh, okay, if this is helpful, it's no big deal. Everybody should
Right.
know that. Right. And so I love that piece. And then I love that you pick the things that match the time and energy you have for how you're showing up that day. So that is beautiful. And I want to get into human design because not everybody listening in may understand it. So let's unpack
Right.
that first before we get
Yeah.
into some of these other topics. For the folks that may not understand what it is, or maybe they've heard it, but they're not
Mhm.
completely clear, let's go to the basics. What's human design?
Human design has coined the science of differentiation, and it utilizes 5 modalities to show you your energetic blueprint. So it uses Kabbalah, I Ching, astrology, chakras, and quantum physics. The moment you were born created a certain, I like to say, frequency, for lack of a better term, and it has designed inside of you how you process information, where you receive that information. As I mentioned earlier, your energetic blueprint. Do you have natural energy? Do you not have natural energy? And it gives you your operations manual, which I don't think a lot of us knew existed. Human design gives you validation and confirmation of, oh, that's why this never felt good when it comes to a lot of things, especially inside of business, sales conversations, showing up on social media, your offerings, so on and so forth. And it really helps you customize all of the solicited and unsolicited feedback you get constantly through social media, through others around you. So you can really go, oh, I hear you. Or, oh, I hear you. No, thank you. And it just streamlines that decision making process because I feel that, especially for those who are new, that's the most overwhelming part. We have all of these shoulds, right? I should have a website. I should be on social media. I should be on TikTok. I should be doing this. Should you? I don't know, because not everybody is designed to build their business the same way. And that's why I love that it's the science of differentiation, because it
Yeah.
shows your unique profitability. Nobody, absolutely nobody, has the exact same chart. Even though there are some overarching themes that we can have inside of what's called a type, who you are inside of that type is completely different than somebody else who's in the same type. So again, it gives you that confidence of like, oh, so that's how you are, but this is how I am. How
Yeah.
can we kind of match and play off each other?
Yeah. One of my friends had this phrase first emulate and then
Mm.
innovate,
Mm.
right? Understand the principles, the
Yeah.
elements. We have to have that understanding. But like you said earlier, when you learned these things, it felt forced.
Mm-hmm.
We have to emulate just to have the basic understanding, but then we have to go to that innovate. And that's where this comes in.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
where this says, okay, now have learned what to do, whether it's marketing, social media, how to coach our clients, making all those things that you talked about.
Yep.
Now I understand, how am I going to bring me to this so that
Mm-hmm.
it's me doing this in my
Exactly.
way? Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Now, what's one thing, if you don't mind sharing, after you learned about this human design, you're like, now I understand this, and you started fitting it into your business. What's
Mm.
an area where you used this knowledge of your human design, your energetic blueprint, and it was absolutely amazing, incredible? You're like, oh my gosh, that just happened. Can you share a specific story?
There's a couple. It's interesting because, as I mentioned, there's certain types in human design, and there's 5 of them. The more well-known one is what's called a generator, which is 70% of the population. They are extremely energetic. They have a natural source of energy. I like to call them the backbone of society. They're the ones that have helped us progress as a humanity. I'm what's called a projector. I have no natural energy. In fact, projectors can only quote unquote work 2 to 4 hours a day. That made sense to me and made me look at how I was running my business. How did I not burn out sooner? I
Mm,
was a 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. entrepreneur. Like, I was hustling and I had 7 meetings a day and was doing, I was speaking all these times and I was saying yes to all of these things. And though I was, again, on paper profitable, when I got that information and I actually then re-looked at what I did and the actual profitability points or the actual ROI behind it, I realized that most of those were total BS. Like, nothing came about them. In fact, most of them didn't even go the way that I had imagined or that was promised. Because on the other end of being a projector, my strategy is wait to be invited. What entrepreneur is really told to wait? None. And funnily enough, 90% of us are designed to wait. The only ones that are designed to initiate are what's called manifestors, and that's 10% of the population. So with that as well, I went, okay, all of these opportunities that I was seeking out, that I was asking for, that I was tenaciously going after, did it work? No, the ones that really worked were the ones where people heard me speak somewhere, invited me to something, and then all of a sudden, that was the easiest room to close ever. And so it was putting those pieces of the puzzle together, and I think human design helps you look at all of those hints and really look at your business through your lens and really understanding what is your profitability ROI, mentally, emotionally, and financially. We all naturally utilize our designs. We just go too far, or we don't know our stopping points or our starting points. So it's those understandings as well that has helped me now completely reframe how I schedule my day. I don't schedule anything. Everything is automated, so I don't mess it up. My calendar makes sure I only have 2 to 3 meetings a day, 3 days a week. Did that come with some guilt factor? Absolutely. Had to work through that. But now it's just on autopilot to where I know my day is more freeing. I know as a projector, that allows me more time, more energy, more ways to master, more ways to just really be inside of my business without the guilt factor. And knowing that my most profitable opportunities are going to come to me, then I reframe, how am I being seen? How am I sharing my story? Podcasts, things along those lines. So it just really helped me understand my foundations for myself and tweak, reframe what already worked, but now it works for me.
What I'm hearing with all of this, and I'm a big advocate for this, a lot of coaches or any kind of service-based entrepreneur, at the heart of us is serving. And a lot of people mistakenly think, because I'm serving, I am only giving, and they don't place themselves anywhere in that conversation.
Yeah.
And mistakenly believe, with the cultural conditioning and the generations, well, if I put myself in the equation, I'm taking away from somebody, instead of, if I put myself in the equation, I can give of the overflow, even more of me to give without getting depleted. And that's what I've heard you describe in this understanding the concept of human design. First, to understand yourself, know how to show up in your own business.
Yeah.
Then you can use it to better serve your clients. So let's talk about serving our clients. How can coaches use this with their clients?
So I love it because it gives you a format of the how behind your clients. Like, there are elements of your human chart, for example, your authority. Everybody makes decisions differently because we make decisions from different areas of our bodies. So for me, I am what's called an emotional authority, which means if I'm a full body hell yes, I still need to sleep on it. If I am stressed out, I do not need to take any action steps whatsoever, which was my fallback way back in the day. By understanding that, that has changed my pace on how I make decisions. Even just knowing that, not even knowing my client's design, I can pick up on what they need space-wise to make that decision if there is one to make. And so it allows me to relax, to just facilitate the conversation instead of forcing it. Kind of going back to my former mentor, don't get them off the phone. A maybe is yes, keep them on the phone, find the solution, have another phone call and see where they can find the money. Ooh, no, but I did it. And literally my stomach is clenching just talking about this because it's so not me.
And let me just interject, because it doesn't mean that that's bad.
No.
That works for a different
Type of person.
a different design.
Yep.
It didn't work for you. I want all of our listeners to hear that's not a bad approach. It's not your approach.
Correct.
It's somebody else's approach. And you can't take somebody else's and try to put it on you and wonder why you can't function.
Yeah, because it's not what's wrong with you. It's what's wrong with the advice.
Yeah, the application of the advice.
Because I think, again, when somebody else listening is like, yeah, Mel, I felt exactly the same way. I'm not saying you're an emotional authority, but that gives you the validation of, oh, okay, so I'm not lazy. It's not because it's just outside my comfort zone. Even just understanding the flow of your client or how they process information, it gives you that insight so you know how to better hold space, better, facilitate. You can look at your toolbox and go, okay, I know this to be true. So here's this application. Let's take this application and customize it. Here's a tool. Play around with it. How does this work with you? How does this feel? These are my suggestions. Like, it makes it so much more collaborative than coercive.
Yeah. Can you share a client story protecting confidentiality?
Yeah.
But is there a specific client experience where they were struggling and when you brought this element in, they had amazing results and transformations?
Yeah, absolutely. Another type, which called a manifesting generator. Those are my multi-passionate, multifaceted, do not dare tell them to niche down type of people. And it's that latter that I get the biggest, wait, what? I don't have to just focus on one thing. And that was definitely one of my clients' biggest obstacles was she felt like she was so flighty. She felt like she was so disappointing because she couldn't just focus on one thing, knock it out of the park, and then build on it. She wanted to do this, and then she wanted to play over here, and then she wanted to do this, and then she saw this idea. She just wants to experiment in it. But every time she would tell a traditional mentor that who wasn't aware of her human design, they would fall back on that traditional of like, just hold on, don't get like just one thing. You're going to overspread yourself. You're going to overexert yourself, which she could as well if she doesn't know her parameters, her starting points, and her stopping points. So when she had her first session with me, her first reading, and I told her that shoulder drop and that deep breath of just going, okay, thank you. What's next? That is what we continuously go back to, reminding her that she has full say on how she spends the time that she has. She has the energy. Go for it. And for her to hear somebody go, you can do that. Like, why couldn't you do that? To also then showing her the proof of why that is correct. It just builds that self-confidence to where now when she pivots into another avenue or decides to spend time in another bucket, she doesn't spend time bemoaning herself. She doesn't spend time punishing herself. She just knows, oh, I'm going to put in this one because I haven't mastered everything in here. So I'm going to come over here, let this settle, and then I'm going to come back. And she's playing inside of her business and going places with her business that she never even knew was available because she was so forced to be
Yeah.
narrow focused.
Yeah.
And when she took those blinders off, the world's her oyster. And not only is that enjoyable to her, it's not overwhelming. And she knows how she can take care of herself so she can be all the places at the same time and still be profitable.
Yeah. We're talking specifically about human design, and I want to take it to a kind of the 50,000-foot perspective because what
Yeah.
we're talking about is understanding your type, right? And before I learned about human design, it might have been like 2017, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
But years before, earlier in my business, I discovered the Enneagram. That was my first introduction into the types. And I remember when I started reading about these types, I had two things happen. Oh, that's why I do what I do in business. And then probably the bigger one was like, oh, that's why I don't get my stepson. And it was in learning that and understanding what his type was and my type and why there was some disconnects or where there was points of connection. It's like, oh, I had greater understanding. So I could communicate differently with him or understand his communication with me. I mean, we're talking about it in the context of business. And in the introduction, I talked about how you've brought it to your family. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a big game changer for me personally as well, not just with clients and how I do business. For me, it was the Enneagram. But one of the things that's always intrigued me about the human design piece is it brings in the spiritual, the scientific, it brings all of it together. So many of these types, they're either all intellect or they're
Yeah.
all scientific or they're all only business or they're all only spiritual. But this is the merging of all of them. And I really resonate with that.
Yeah. People ask me all the time, is this better than SWOT or DISC or GEMS? It's not better. It's just deeper. I always like to look at those like Enneagrams and so on, like that's the tip of the iceberg. The iceberg underneath, that's your human design. That is the why behind those hows. Some of those can be manipulated through training, through trauma, through experience. And sometimes clients are like, well, I did an Enneagram and then I was a 2, but then I took it again and I was a 4. Well, yeah, because you learned, you shifted, like you have trained yourself differently. Whereas human design, you can't train out of it. Like this is you, and this is why you were able to train yourself out of it or why you did shift over here. So it does give you that foundational information. It will always be you. This is why you do the things that you do or why your energy is the way that it is. And with that information, you can make those newer decisions that bring about that true profitability.
Now, what are some of the misconceptions that people have about human design and this kind of approach? Whether it's applying to their own business or using it with their clients?
I think the big thing is that though I'm really happy human design is becoming more known, it's also slipping into what I call Instagrammable human design, where people are just taking their type, like they did a free chart, which there's a lot of great free charts out there, but they take their type, which is an overarching theme, and they start making full blown decisions and action steps based off of their type. That's not necessarily wrong. It can be incorrect because of the other elements in the chart. It really drives me nuts when people are like, oh, well, I'm this type, so therefore I can't do this. I just know that I'm a generator and I can't do this. I can't do that. It's like, well, I'm not sure if that's even really true. There might be ways that you can reframe it, but it's when they take one bit. And I call human design the ultimate onion of personal development. Like it's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. To even the person who brought it forward says it takes an average of 7 years for you to fully incorporate your design. So this is not a you hear one thing, everything is magically fixed. This is a process. And I think a lot of people don't appreciate that because we're kind of taught like, oh, overnight shipping, or, we've come to expect certain results in a certain time frame. So I think the biggest misconception that I hear is that they'll hear one bit, it won't connect to them, and they'll just be like, well, that's not true, or that's wrong, or I can't do this. And then they just shut it off and keep moving forward.
Now, you've mentioned several times about the profitability emotionally, mentally, financially. It's pretty obvious. I think most everybody knows here's how I measure my profitability financially.
Right.
How do you measure your profitability energetically or mentally? What does that look like?
I don't know what it looks like, but I do know what it feels like. It's that feeling of every day you feel successful or satisfied, even if you didn't make a single sale. It's knowing that you had a good day. And it's still some days where, for myself, there's some days where I still need to find those glimmers. But knowing my human design, I know where those glimmers lie. And I know what those glimmers can do for me. And as an emotional authority, as a projector, as open as I am in all my centers, I need to disconnect. I need to rest. And I need to do things that fill me up because that spills over onto my business, that spills over onto everything else. And so it's that feeling of just every day is a good day. And it's not based off of how many sales you had or how many conversations you had or what numbers you hit. Those are also the byproduct of when you're in that flow, that just seems to come to you. Honestly, it feels a little like woo-woo-y, but it's true. And it's that ease. We don't get a lot of ease inside of entrepreneurship. And it shows you that ease through that simplicity that is your way of creating what you want. So it banishes that noise. It banishes that overwhelm. It banishes those shoulds. And it gives you that operations manual, that map for yourself to where you know that even if you didn't make a single sale, these are profitability points that have maintained you and that keep you motivated, and that keep you excited and keep you connected.
Yeah. And for each of those, just like we do with our financial bank accounts, we look at the input, we look at the output.
Yeah.
A lot of times when it comes to energetically, people may not even pay attention to both. They might only pay attention to the output. We have to also, what's the input? How are we bringing that in? What are we doing? How are we being? What are we experiencing? So that the input is there as well. Same mentally, right? Especially in business,
Yeah.
learning, figuring out, applying, implementing, understanding, teaching, all this stuff. It's like, what's the input? And making sure that that's balanced. I mean, to have profitability, there's got to be more input than output.
Yeah.
Very simple equation. And a lot of people get that reversed.
Yeah. And figuring out that it is a blend. Some days are blended differently than others. And it's understanding what your blend is for that day. Again, that confidence and that trust that you are being profitable, even if that's not a traditional step to financial profitability, it's going to get you there because you have that sustainability.
What haven't I asked you that you think would be valuable for our audience to hear?
Ooh, that's a great question. I love the saying, you have everything inside of you to answer the call of your soul. You just have to find it. And so trusting that process, it's okay to dig deeper inside. It's okay to do internal work instead of an external explanation. So just have faith in that, but also trust yourself. If something doesn't feel right, even if you don't have the vernacular, give it a minute. Let's sit on it, marinate in it, ask more questions. FOMO is real, absolutely. So if you're feeling like, but I'm going to miss out if I don't do this, is that really something sustainable? Is that really something that is going to bring that flow? Or do you need to take a pause and receive more information, master some other things, knowing that there are opportunities like that out there? It's okay to pause. It's okay to take your time. It's okay to think about things. And it's also okay to just trust that initial feeling, even if you don't have the words for it. Trust yourself. It's sometimes just digging a little deeper to really understand the vernacular. Then you can truly advocate for yourself. And it comes with that confidence without having that disconnect of what you think to be true and who you really are.
Awesome. Well, let's summarize some of the things we've talked about today. I mean, we dove into the basics of what human design is. And, at the core essence, it's the energetic blueprint, understanding how you operate so you can show up authentically. You gave us that duh moment. At least it was a duh moment for me. But focus on time and energy, both. And whatever you have in that day, put the things from your to-do list that match the time and energy that you have. I absolutely love that. We talked about your normal is someone else's aha. We talked about how to use this with our clients to help understand them, how to hold space for them, how to help them process information for their transformations. We talked about some of the misconceptions and measuring the profitability. And understanding this helps us to be in this for the long game, for ourselves and our clients and our business, so that we can enjoy what we're here to do, love it, and be really good at it at the same time. Mel, are there any parting words that you have for our listeners?
You really do have full say on how you spend the time and energy that you have. You are the singular most important person in your life and in your business. Connecting to that and trusting that. And not only will it come with a space of ease and flow, but also with that grounded self-trust that is unshakable.
I love it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Just Between Coaches, and a huge thank you to Mel for this inspiring conversation. For everyone listening, if you've ever wondered whether your business is truly working for you, this is your sign to explore your human design. Check out melmcsherry.com to learn more. That's Mel, M-E-L, McSherry, McSherry.com. And in the show notes, you'll find a link to their website and the link to their resource, virtualcoffeewithmel.com. Mel, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed every second of it.
I'm Melinda Cohan, and you've been listening to Just Between Coaches. Just Between Coaches is part of the Mirasee FM podcast network, which also includes such shows as Course Lab and Making It. For more great episodes of Just Between Coaches, follow us on Mirasee FM's YouTube channel or your favorite podcast player. If you've enjoyed the show and want to help spread the word, please leave us a 5-star review and tell your friends. Thanks, and see you next time.